I had a CEO ask me this one question, and I see it to be a common concern that almost every CEO shares, but it really gets being addressed properly. Now, the question was simply this: how do I really know if my leadership team is aligned? And my answer basically surprised him because I said they are almost certainly not aligned. And here's the uncomfortable part: the fact that you are asking the question means you already sense it. You just cannot prove it yet. So, what I want to do is today, I'm going to give you that particular proof, and I'm going to show you a test you can run this week that will reveal exactly where your alignment breaks down. So, what I want to do is let me start by painting a picture that will make this more clearer. I want you to imagine a world-class orchestra, and every musician in that particular orchestra is brilliant. Individually, any one of them could headline a concert. They have trained for decades and they have extraordinary talent. But when you put them together without a conductor, without a shared score, and without a rehearsal rhythm, what do you get? You're just going to get noise, you're going to get talented, expensive noise. So your leadership team is exactly the same. The talent is there. And I've never walked into a boardroom and thought these people are not good enough. That is almost never the issue. The issue, my dear friends, is the absence of a shared score, a shared understanding of what we are playing, in what order, and how each section supports the other. The conductor is actually the governance, the score is strategic clarity, the rehearsal rhythm is accountability. And without all three, you have a group of talented soloists making noise instead of music. And that noise, my dear friends, has a cost. Now, here's something I've never heard anyone else talk about, and basically it is critical. There are basically three levels of alignment inside any leadership team. Now, most teams are stuck at level 1 and they do not even know it. So, level 1 is what I call surface alignment. This is where your team agrees in the meetings. They actually nod. They say the right things as well. The strategy document is also approved, and everyone leaves the room apparently on the same page. Now, surface alignment will actually feel good. It looks professional and it is almost completely useless because what happens after the meeting is what actually matters. Now, level 2 is functional alignment. This is where your team agrees not just on the priorities but how those priorities translate into action. Now, each leader understands their role. Each leader knows how their work connects to the work of others. Functional alignment is better, but it is still incomplete. So let me share level 3, which is deep alignment. This is where your team shares the same priorities, the same interpretation of those priorities, and critically, the same trade-offs. Now, deep alignment means that when a choice has to be made between two competing demands, every leader makes the same call. Not because they were told to, but because they share the same decision logic. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Most leadership teams are actually operating at level 1. They have surface alignment. They agree in meetings. But the moment they walk out, each person reverts to their own interpretation, their own department's needs, their own mental model of what success looks like. And the gap between what your leadership team agrees and what your team does is where your margin lives. So, how do you find out which level your team is operating at? And I'm going to give you a test which you can run this week. It takes only 15 minutes, but it's going to reveal more about your leadership team than most consultancy engagements costing tens of thousands of pounds or dollars. So, what you need to do is send each member of your leadership team a message and do it independently. Ask them just these two questions. The question one is, what are our top 3 strategic priorities right now? And question 2 is, what is the single biggest risk to our business over the next 12 months? Now, do not let them discuss it. Do not give them a heads up either. You want their instinctive answer. The one that reflects what they actually believe, not what they think they should say. So, when the answers come back, put them side by side and look for 3 things. The first is, do they really agree on the priorities? And if not, you are at level 1. Second, even if the priorities match, do the interpretations match? So, if your sales director says grow revenue and your operation director says grow revenue, but one means new clients and the other one means upselling, you are at level 2 with a fracture underneath. Third, do they see the same risk? If your team cannot agree on what threatens them, they will not agree on how to protect the business. Now, I've run this particular test with leadership teams across a lot of sectors which I've worked with. These are manufacturing, FMCG, hospitality, technology, professional services, just to mention a few. And the result is consistent. Almost nobody is at level 3. And the CEOs who discover this are always surprised, not because the information is shocking, but it's because it was invisible until someone made them realize to really look at it, what really happened. Now let me tell you what surface alignment costs, because this is not an academic exercise. There is real money attached to this. When your team operates at level 1, you get duplicated effort. 2 departments trying to solve the same problem because they do not share that particular intelligence. You get conflicting projects, resources being pulled in opposite directions. And what's going to happen is you get slow decisions because nobody has the shared context to make them quickly. And you know what? You get your best people quietly disengaging because they sense the system is broken even if they cannot articulate why. So, in a typical £10 million business, I would estimate this costs between £50,000 to £80,000 per year. In a £20 million business, it is closer to £100,000 to £150,000, and it compounds. Every month you operate at level 1, the cost increases because the fragmentation becomes more embedded and harder to reverse. So the most expensive conversation in business is the one thing you're not really having. So the question is simple. You'd be asking is, how do I really get to level 3? And it starts with making the invisible visible. The test I just gave you is the first step. It shows you where the gaps are. The second step is a structured conversation that most leadership teams have basically never had. It is a conversation about trade-offs. So, what do we stop doing in order to do this? That's the question that you need to really ask. And what do we say no to? What are we willing to sacrifice in Department A to support Department B? Those trade-off conversations are where real alignment lies, and most teams avoid them because they feel uncomfortable. And the third step is installing a rhythm, weekly tracking, monthly accountability, quarterly recalibration. Without a rhythm, even deep alignment is going to drift. And this is the traction lever of my impact model. It is what turns a one-time alignment exercise into a permanent operating system. So if you ran that particular test and the answers worried you, that is actually a signal. Now, it doesn't mean that your team is broken. It means your system is incomplete. And that is actually fixable. And a couple of resources I have for you. First is the CEO scorecard, which tests this dimension directly. There are 5 questions, 60 seconds, free, link is below. Or if you want to go deeper, take the Gap Unlock questionnaire at vijaymystery.com. I will also leave a link below. 12 questions, 3 minutes. I personally review every response and identify which of the 15 gaps are most likely active in your business. So my dear friends, clarity first, impact fast. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.